Mercedes has finally gotten to the racetrack where they have the best chance to win, and this is the track that Hamilton and Russell are really excited about, with a lot of important things happening, and with second place in both competitions still possible to get. Both drivers will have a really hard challenge ahead of them and maybe do the same great thing they did last year, a really good win, just by being fast and good with the new car bottom part and the car getting faster in the last two races. Are we really going to see an amazing performance from the Silver team? And more importantly, will Hamilton be able to stop losing and finally win a race? It's clear that Mercedes is slowly but surely fixing the broken parts from not understanding the 2022 rules correctly, and in the last few races, we've seen a really good racing car from the Silver team, especially if we look at how Hamilton has been driving. If we forget about getting kicked out of the race in Austin, something that had nothing to do with the upgrades, the British driver came in second both times and could have been ahead of Perez in the driver rankings after Mexico, but with only 20 points between them, nothing is decided yet, and Hamilton has one clear goal in front of him: get the second spot in the championship and finish the season really well, with a lot to be excited about in 2024. But this didn't happen just by luck for Mercedes, as we saw that Aston Martin also brought new car parts to Austin, which seemed to be a huge failure for the team based in Silverstone. James Allison, the technical boss of Mercedes, has put a lot of hope in the current version of the car, as so far it looks like the 2024 version is going to give us much better racing from both Hamilton and Russell. And until we get there, the team based in Brackley has one goal in front of them: keep winning at least one race every season and make sure that they won't have to wait so long in the future for this winning streak to continue. One of the things that might stop Mercedes from getting even better is Mike Elliott leaving. As the former technical boss of Mercedes has said that he'll be leaving the team when the season ends, this puts more pressure on Mercedes to find a good replacement for 2024, which then again means another mixing up of people in the technical department and another process of trying to see who works best where, which is what they've done with bringing back Allison, the current technical boss of Mercedes, from April onwards, talking about their chances to win in Brazil before the Mexican race. Allison was really hopeful that one of Hamilton's most favorite tracks will definitely work really well for him. As he said, Brazil, a race that we won last year which made us really happy, is a track where again all the things we just put on the car should work really well for us at the Interlagos track. Everything that Allison predicted for the Mexico Grand Prix turned out to be right. The team managed to keep the car from getting too hot, even though it had trouble for some time, which is why we could see both Hamilton and Russell going off the racing line on the main straight of 1 kilometer looking for clean air to get into the cooling parts and to keep the engine safe from getting too hot. But with Interlagos being pretty much the same type of place as Mexico, and with Hamilton having a real chance to win the race just by being the fastest, will we actually see this happen? And who would be the biggest problems for the 7-time world champion? I know that many of you want to say Verstappen first, and if we judge by what happened before, this is not a track that works great for Verstappen. In 2021 he lost the lead to Hamilton, who started from the very back of the starting line with a brand new engine. And in 2022, even though both of them bumped wheels and brought back excitement from the old championship days, Verstappen couldn't really match how fast his competitors ahead were going. Obviously, tracks with thin air is something that Red Bull cannot quite figure out, even though they managed to win Mexico 5 times with the Dutch driver, as the story changes a lot for the Interlagos race. After all, the Mexican race wasn't really that much of a total control by Verstappen if you compare his speed to Hamilton's after the red flag restart, because in the clean air the 7-time champion was only 0.2 of a second slower compared to the Dutch driver. Obviously, he was pretty far behind and had trouble getting past Leclerc before he could make a good run at Verstappen, but the risk that his medium tire would wear out too early and make him an easy target compared to Leclerc was too big to risk a possible win, even though it wasn't that far from happening. And this is something that Hamilton and Mercedes are going to look forward to using in the right way in Brazil, mostly because this is a track that has been mostly won by him in the past. Even last year, where he finished behind his teammate, it was still an amazing performance from the 7-time world champion, considering he had floor damage after the crash with Verstappen at the start of the race. Even Verstappen himself knows that the Brazilian race is going to be a really hard challenge for him and his team, and one of the toughest competitors he's going to have is definitely Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, whose honorary citizenship in this country really believes that the second place in the championship can be won by doing really well. And Interlagos is actually a circuit with a lot of slow corners that will work much better for the W14 than we could originally think. Talking about this, Hamilton said, "I think it's not likely that I'll finish second, but we'll try our hardest at the end of the day. Either way, it doesn't really matter whether we're second or third. It's not something we need to do. Getting the team second is more of a goal. I think that is the goal, but I think we're doing well. But obviously for us, there are only 4 races left. Checo has to have 4 really bad races, which probably won't happen. It's mostly up to Checo's weekend, really. They have the championship winning car, and he's just been unlucky in some situations. Obviously, I've lost quite a lot of points in the last 2 races, but he lost points in Mexico, I think. Coming into the weekend, having lost points last week, I don't think I would really be close, particularly after today. Yeah, we'll just have to try our hardest. The hope is there, and one thing that works really well for Hamilton is the gap between him and Russell, something that was really obvious during the Mexican race. Compared with all the teams, the only driver that was able to make a bigger gap to his teammate was the impressive Ricciardo. He was able to get 0.544 seconds ahead of the Japanese driver, while Hamilton was able to get 0.5 to 9 seconds compared to Russell. Obviously, the problems with the younger British driver have been more than easy to see in the last few races, and many have started to ask whether he has what it takes to be the next leader of the team when the time comes. But Russell has made everybody feel better with his statement about the worries about being slower than Hamilton, as he said, "The race in Mexico felt like I was driving on ice for the last 15 laps, which was a pretty awful feeling, and I was very lucky to finish in 6th place. We were strong here last year. We qualified on the front row and should have gotten a podium last year, but this weekend has been about tires, as it has been for everyone. Qualifying was a total surprise for many teams. Good or bad, but I'm hopeful Brazil won't be that hard on tires. I'm not too worried because of the reason behind being slower than Hamilton. It's been 2 race weekends in a row for 2 different reasons. Last time in the US it was the fuel saving which hurt the tires. This weekend it was the brakes. We need some clear answers. The problem that Mercedes would want to look into is keeping the engine cool, and this time they would have around 300 meters. More of a long straight part to look for clean air, and if we compare how high up both tracks are, we'd see that Interlagos is way lower than Mexico, with 700 meters above sea level compared to the 2,250 of Mexico, and that was really easy to see the year before when the broken W13, as every important member of Mercedes called it, was able to put on quite an amazing show in Brazil and control the entire track. Furthermore, another good thing for Mercedes can be found in the fact that this is a sprint weekend, one in which Hamilton will have a real chance to take even more points away from Perez and maybe have a shot at beating him for 2nd place in the driver championship as well. If we look at Russell's current position, we can't help but notice that the 32 points behind Alonso, who is having a really hard time at 5th place, may be made up in the following races. The British driver will definitely want to put more pressure on Norris and Leclerc, who are also sitting between him and the 2-time world champion, but whatever happens, Mercedes will have a really special chance to beat their competitors in Brazil. And if we judge that by last year's performance, a 1-2 victory is also something that we should not think is impossible for the Silver team. All throughout the year they've been waiting for this race as one of the best ones for the team, and thanks to the new floor and the upgrades, the chances are just good to ignore. Do you think that Mercedes and Hamilton have a real chance to win at Interlagos? And if so, do you think it could be just by racing the best, or will they need a little bit of luck?